At 52 years old, Mariam was rushed to the hospital, and what the doctors discovered inside her stomach left them utterly stunned. Mariam sat in the hospital waiting room, her hands trembling with anxiety. The room seemed to close in around her as her thoughts spiraled with worry. She couldn't shake the overwhelming sense that the doctor's report would bring devastating news, perhaps even a terminal diagnosis. "There's no escaping this," a voice in her head whispered, fueling her dread. Finally, the door creaked open, and the doctor stepped in, his expression grave. Mariam's heart pounded as he handed her an envelope with her test results. With shaking hands, she forced herself to open it. As her eyes skimmed the words on the paper, her breath caught in her throat. The shock was evident on her face as the results slipped from her grasp and fluttered to the floor. This was how it all began for Mariam Stanton, a 52-year-old school principal who had no idea that her life was about to take an unexpected turn. Mariam had always been a strong and independent woman. As the principal of a local school, she was respected by her students and colleagues alike. But lately, something had been very wrong. She had been experiencing frequent dizzy spells that left her feeling disoriented and weak. One morning, while driving to school, the dizziness became so overwhelming that she nearly crashed the car. She had to pull over to the side of the road, her heart racing. Concerned for her well-being, Mariam's husband, Ralph Stanton, insisted she see a doctor. To him, she was probably just stressed with work, but Mariam couldn't shake the feeling that something was seriously wrong. Mariam felt anxious as she sat in the doctor's office that morning. She had just undergone a series of tests and examinations and was waiting for the doctor's report. When the doctor handed her the file, she could see that her results were indeed concerning. The doctor kindly recommended that she see a gynecologist to rule out any potential issues. Mariam left the office feeling even more anxious. She couldn't help but worry about what the gynecologist might find. She was well past menopause already, so it couldn't be that. A week later, Mariam found herself sitting in the gynecologist's office. The doctor, a middle-aged woman with a warm smile, listened attentively as Mariam described her symptoms. After a thorough examination, the doctor delivered her diagnosis. Mariam had uterine fibroids. Her heart skipped a beat. She had heard of fibroids before, but her mind raced to a darker possibility: cancer. The word echoed in her mind, triggering memories of her sister's battle with cervical cancer. Her sister had lost that battle, and the trauma of it still haunted Mariam. As the doctor explained the treatment options for the fibroids, Mariam's thoughts wandered. She was convinced that it wasn't just a harmless growth. The symptoms she had been experiencing seemed far too serious for something like fibroids. Returning home, Mariam couldn't shake the feeling of impending doom. She spent hours researching uterine cancer symptoms, her heart sinking with each matching symptom she found. The bleeding she experienced over the next 2 weeks felt like a confirmation of her worst fears. With each passing day, Mariam's anxiety grew, consumed by her belief that she was running out of time. She resigned from her position as school principal, leaving her colleagues and students baffled. Her recent behavior puzzled Ralph. He watched as his once strong wife slowly became a shadow of her former self. He didn't understand why she was giving up her job and her life so quickly. One day, he couldn't take it anymore and asked her what was going on. Mariam turned to him with tears in her eyes and said, "I think I have cancer." Ralph was taken aback. He told her that she couldn't jump to conclusions like that. He insisted that she needed to see more doctors and get more opinions, but Mariam brushed off his suggestion. She had seen the signs before in her sister's battle with cancer. She believed that nothing would help her and didn't want to waste her limited time on futile attempts. The weight of fear weighed heavily on Mariam, leaving her convinced that her time was running out. Unbeknownst to her, a twist of fate awaited, one that would uncover an astonishing truth and alter her life forever. In a quiet moment of desperation, Mariam went to confession, seeking forgiveness for her sins to ensure her place in heaven. Believing she had little time left, she began making burial arrangements in secret, keeping her husband, Ralph, in the dark. Mariam purchased a loose dress, a beautiful robe, and comfortable slippers for her funeral, tucking them away neatly among her linens. She wasn't concerned about appearances. She simply wanted to be comfortable in her final resting place. She even moved from their shared bedroom to the couch in the living room, explaining to Ralph that her growing belly needed more space. He didn't understand her actions, mistaking them for an attempt to distance herself from him. In reality, Mariam was trying to prepare him for a future without her, knowing how lost he would be in her absence. Mariam visited the cemetery and cleared a spot near her mother's grave. She arranged with the burial office and ordered a monument for herself. She even picked out a photo for the plaque. She kept everything she had bought in the garage and planned to tell Ralph all about it at a later date. All these funeral preparations helped her temporarily forget about her illness. The nausea subsided and the exhausting dizziness stopped. She felt like she could live and smile again, but the growing belly scared her and her limbs started twitching. She knew that the end was near. Some weeks later, Mariam was meticulously preparing dinner in the kitchen when she suddenly felt a very sharp pain in her abdomen. She gasped and clutched her stomach, her head spinning. The plates she held fell from her hands, and she passed out. Ralph rushed to her side and called 911. An ambulance arrived and took her to the hospital. When she opened her eyes, she was surprised to find a doctor looming over her. The doctor removed the cold, round piece of the stethoscope from her belly with a smile and asked, "How many months, ma'am?" Mariam panicked and bit her lip in anxiety. How many months? Was he making fun of her? Mariam wondered. She immediately became very upset and aggressive. She began hitting her belly and then told Ralph to take her away from the hospital so she could go home and die. The nurses quickly ushered the anxious Ralph out of the ward. Meanwhile, the doctor administered a sedative injection to help her relax and reduce her anxiety. She drifted into a peaceful sleep afterward. When she woke up this time, she was in another hospital room. This time, two different physicians, Dr. Thompson and Dr. Patel, walked into the room with meticulous care. Dr. Patel reviewed Mariam's medical history and ordered another series of tests, including the all-revealing ultrasound. The room was hushed as the images flickered on the screen. A collective gasp swept through the room, and the doctors exchanged glances conveying disbelief. As Mariam gazed at the nurse's incredulous expression, hope began to flutter in her chest like a fragile bird taking flight. The doctors were extremely shocked when they found this in the stomach of an elderly woman like Mariam. A fibroid was present, yes, but it wasn't the source of Mariam's distress. The ultrasound had uncovered something unexpected. Mariam was pregnant, 6 months pregnant. New life, the word hung in the air, a stark contrast to the grim expectations she had carried. Mariam and Ralph were in disbelief. They had once had a son, but that was many years ago. Tragically, he had passed away in a home accident before his 7th birthday. Since then, Mariam had been unable to conceive, and they had long since abandoned any hope of expanding their family. As the reality of the news sank in, tears welled up in Mariam's eyes. She looked over at Ralph, whose face reflected a mix of astonishment and joy. Neither of them could quite grasp the fact that they were going to be parents again, but they were overjoyed. Just 3 months later, Mariam gave birth effortlessly to a beautiful baby girl. Ralph was so overwhelmed with happiness at the sight of his daughter that he nearly fainted from excitement. Mariam's heart swelled with joy, and she realized that she no longer needed to prepare for a funeral. Instead, new life had brought unexpected joy to their family. What do you think about Mariam's miraculous pregnancy journey? I'm really keen to know your thoughts on this story, so please don't hesitate to share your insights in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video and found it engaging, I invite you to subscribe to our channel for more similar content. Feel free to share this video. Take good care of yourselves, and I'm excited to connect with you in our future videos.